Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you're here. This is the Daily Medicine Transmission for Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021, and I'd like to extend a very warm happy birthday to my mama. It is her birthday today, and she gets to spend her birthday morning taking her youngest cat to the vet. It seems, which is a bummer, to start your birthday out that way, but there is some pretty significant heaviness or a pushing down or a tampering or something that's going on today that we're going to spend some time exploring. And my own cats have been passed out cold for hours, which is very unusual for the morning. They're usually much more active and playful, and they usually will start taking a nap around this time, but I haven't seen them move all morning, and so I know that something is up, and there is a very distinct heaviness. So welcome back, everyone. Welcome to this channel. If this is your first time here, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, and if you enjoy this content, you find it inspiring and helpful, and you think it would help other people, you can do so much by subscribing to this channel, hitting the like button, or commenting or sharing on this commenting on this content or sharing it, because it actually does all influence the AI algorithm overlords that we have that decide what content is going to be disseminated to whom. So in the meantime, we can certainly counteract this in our own little ways. But thank you for being part of this process. And I'm looking forward to the live chat and seeing how people are doing, and really just trying to consolidate here, because that is essentially the essence of our Cancer moon, especially in the second half of Cancer, is consolidating our energies. And there is a very deep stirring that is going on today, and we're going to explore that as well. So let's get out of studio mode here. So how is everyone doing? How are we feeling today? The heaviness seems pretty significant. We're going to look at the Schumann Resonance and even the Magnetosphere. There is a lot of density and pressure in the Magnetosphere. We're going to find that the Schumann Resonance did amplify very early this morning or late last night, which had a corresponding drop in the frequency too. So this is... I'm not surprised if people are feeling like literally a heaviness, right? Being kind of pushed down or having a really hard time being mobile or moving or really pulling yourself out of that depression. But as we're going to see in today's reading, something will break loose. And if it hasn't already, I think that some people really did just kind of pull themselves out of their own feelings of being just drained emotionally, as we're going to see in the reading today, the intuitive part of this transmission. We're going to see that things have taken a turn, but in terms of the generalized feeling, sometimes we need to find that stillness. And when we find that things are very heavy, or we just really lacking the energy or the motivation to really be very expressive and active and oriented towards moving around, there's a reason for that. And there's something that can be learned, and there's opportunities to grow that surround these issues today. So the moon in Cancer has us getting even deeper into ourselves, really consolidating our own personal power, where we belong, where we draw our strength from, and being very clear with the core of who we are and connecting to that place. So I think people, I know for me, and people around in my life, they're, again, very significant kind of suppression or a sense of heaviness, maybe not feeling very well. Sluggish, that's another good one. Maybe feeling sluggish, and not everybody, of course. Everybody's kind of coming at this from their own angle and their own perspective. But in terms of a generalized feeling, it does seem like that there is this sluggishness or this heaviness that is impacting many of us right now. And like I said, there's opportunity around that. So let's see. Emily says, I reset last night and in better prepared for all things. Excellent. I think that was a very clear, when we look at the reading today, that will be very clear that those who took the opportunity to reset and do what they needed to do to infuse their own field with more light, more information, just a sense of love and acceptance of oneself, I think we're going to find that there is a very natural shifting that is happening today. So Barbara says, happy birthday to the Sages. Yeah, there are so many Sages in my family. My mom, me, my brother, and his older son is a Scorpio, so very close though. And then another nephew of mine who is also a Sagittarius. So lots of Sag in my family, lots and lots of very self-righteous, judgmental, and very strongly opinionated people. Yes, there's been a distinct heaviness. I lay in bed all night, resting, but so preoccupied, hard to find clarity and motivation. Yes, there is definitely this pushing down. I had to cancel an appointment. Very unusual. Just knew I needed serious me time to work through it. Good job. Sometimes you just need to do that. Sometimes it just needs to happen. And that is a really good example of following through with your own guidance. And that's all you ever really need. You'll become the oracle of your own life when you learn to listen to your own internal voice and your own higher self and your spirit. So thank you very much for the feedback. And I do feel like it will lift. It is going to lift. And remember yesterday's reading when we had that 10 of Cups at the very end of the reading, being satiated almost forcefully. I do get the sense that it's like, okay, there's like it's more than a shower. It's like a deluge of emotions and intensity just all pressing down. And it's so heavy because of the volume of it that we can't really even move. We can't even move. But what we're going to find today in the astrology is there's a mystic rectangle that is operating with our moon and Mars and Venus and Uranus, strangely enough. And that is, I feel, going to, show us the opportunities surrounding what otherwise would be a very tense and oppositional type of experience, especially with Uranus in the mix. I mean, Mars is still in the opposition to Uranus, although is getting pretty much out of orb, but is still very much impacting, especially with this mystic rectangle, we will see. So let's move on over here. I want to share with you the Schumann. Just it's important that we just pay attention to what's actually happening out there and get a sense of why maybe in the material aspects of our world, our electromagnetism, why maybe this is pressing down on us in some ways. And remember, last night we had the moon in conjunction with Sirius make that sextile to Uranus. And so in some ways, again, the heaviness is like, it's like anchoring us into such a deep part of who we are that everything else is able to be let go and kind of washed away by this, but it doesn't make the physical experience of it in this third density, fourth density even, any less impactful. So that's something to consider too. And sometimes we just need to give ourselves the time and space to let these things be what they are. So that's our chart for today. So we'll get into that too, but let's start with the Schumann Resonance. As you can see, as of this morning, late last night, so you're looking at between 7 and 9 a.m. Universal Time, which is roughly about 11, maybe midnight, on the West Coast. And then we're looking at the for the East Coast, we're looking at the middle of the night, right? So it got loud, didn't it? It went up to about 30, 29 to 30 in terms of its amplitude here. And, across the board as we see. And then as we move down to the quality, and, there wasn't much of a shift, to be perfectly honest, a little bit in terms of the quality, but we saw the corresponding drop in pitch. And that was pretty consistent across all of these lines. It was a drop in the frequency itself, drop in the pitch, down to what it normally is in terms of this top line here. We're looking at down to 7.25. This is the range of the Schumann resonance itself, is between 7 and 8 hertz. And it looks like it dropped down and then came right back up again, up to closer to 8. And so in this moment, we dropped down to almost alignment, really, with the actual Schumann resonance as it's meant to be. So I think that it's very interesting that in the drop down and in the heaviness that we may be experiencing, we're actually deepening our connection to the planetary grid and to the, to the maternal aspect of the planet as a mother and as in a container and as the whole planet, right? Not just inside the grid, but the entire experience, right? The sphere of our planet is not only the physical ground or even what's on or under the surface, but in our atmosphere too, which is very active as well when it comes to the magnetosphere. So we'll pop over to that real quick because I want to show you that as well. So it's going to be, we're looking, it's hard to see what it was when we went back to the Schumann in its, when we looked at the Schumann in relation to in relation to this, right? We can't really go back. If I had taken a screenshot of it last night or in the middle of the night, it'd be different. But you can see that we're still surrounded by a lot of density in the magnetosphere as we're looking at this. And there's some disturbances, right? You can see the waves itself kind of impacting the entirety of the magnetosphere and moving around, and the darker it is, the more dense it is. So if we, let me make sure you guys can see this. Yeah. So, and this is kind of leading us up to right now. So earlier, there was a real big whew, that came through, and we might be able to see it again as we go back to the beginning. Let's see here. I'm not sure if we'll get to see it again. I saw, yeah, look at that. So there's definitely some swirling, there it is, some swirling around and some movement. So if we look at the pressure as well right now, the darker it is towards the yellow, orange, red, the more pressure it is, the corresponding pressure to the density. Whoa, there it is. So something really came through and impacted us, and the corresponding pressure to that density is very strong as well. And so I have a feeling that this is really playing in hand to the heaviness and the very distinct kind of sluggishness, or just needing to rest, just needing to be still, to get into those deeper energies that are stirring. And this is very much related to the sun meeting K2 today as well. So there is our planetary energy connection for today. So I'll go back to here and we'll get into the reading here in a second. So I hope everyone is doing well and taking care of themselves. And like I said, knowing your own inner voice and listening to it is all the oracle you're ever going to need. You know, I'm here to guide people on my own reading of this, and also teaching people how to interpret the symbols and how to interpret their own guidance. But really, you just got to listen to yourself. So let's start looking at the reading here, and we'll get ourselves prepared to receive the intuitive part of this transmission for today. Because look at, you can even see right here the Six of Cups in the same position as yesterday, but now is upright. Something definitely shifted as a result of people's conscious choices. Didn't we talk about that yesterday? Conscious choices, a conscious acceptance of relationship, meaning a choice. And so there was something very much that we learned, even as painful as Six of Cups is pleasure, and the idea that we have learned something about going into the depths of our relationships, into the depths of our own psyche, into that occult knowledge that the Scorpio and that 8th house, holds for us. And there is deep balance and harmony that comes out of this card. So, and there's some change in the material that's right at the heart here. So before I go any further, I'm going to invite everyone to take a moment here to get themselves grounded, feeling that root chakra, making a connection to the earth, allowing that energy to move down through your legs into your feet and out of the bottom of your feet, making a distinct connection as well to the earth star chakra, right? That is anywhere from 3 to 18 feet below you, depending on where in the grid system of the planet you are connecting to. So as we are getting ourselves connected to this space, we're going to take a deep diaphragmatic breath in, allowing for the diaphragm to expand and draw our lungs down, allowing the pressure to change, which effortlessly allows air to come in. So deep breath in. And release. I'm just curious if anybody else had a hard time even this morning or even just this moment, like having to exercise a little bit of extra focus to get grounded. I know that that was my experience this morning. And just taking that extra time during my morning meditation, my Reiki attunement. I've been doing my master attunements now through this eclipse season. And just giving myself the time and not trying to rush it. One thing that I have learned and has also been explained to me from various different directions is that when you try to force any kind of intuitive insight or try to force a download, it's going to be skewed and it's going to be distorted in some way. So just allowing yourself to enjoy and be at peace with that moment of connection with your own spirit and that connection to the infinite and the universe is enough. And when you're there, then the insights that you are, ultimately looking for will find their way to you. But sometimes it just takes extra time. And it seems like that we are being, in some ways, encouraged or supported to take extra time, much to the frustration of people who want to keep going and going and going. So whatever your practice is to energetically realign yourself is an important thing to bring into your awareness right now. So something definitely did shift, and a sense of getting ourselves out of our own way and to allow ourselves to reconcile and find some harmony with some deep emotions that have gone through the depths of pain and fear. There's been a real resistance to it up until recently. I think that collectively, congratulations to us that we have managed to find this balance and harmony through a return to inner source. And part of that too is the transit of Mercury between yesterday and today over the degree of where the full moon lunar eclipse was. And if you remember, the sun in Scorpio at that point was really illuminating and influencing our own expression through the return to this inner source. For the consciousness that has become weary of the outside, circus that is continually going on to distract and to divide our energy and to split it, the full moon lunar eclipse was that moment where we return to an inner source and give our allegiance to that inner source, whatever it however it expresses itself for us. And so as Mercury passed over that point from yesterday to right now, there was brought right to our conscious awareness and into our mental faculties. And I think it really did allow for us to, if we were with ourselves, if we allowed ourselves to really deepen that connection and that core to who we are, then this really did find some balance and harmony by returning to that inner source. And it certainly didn't come without the challenges of going through disappointment and deep pain and fear as well. So it did have its roots in some ways in that, but then it also brought us back to what is at the core of who we are individually, with Cancer, the moon in Cancer, and then Scorpio, the core of who we are together. So something shifted, and I think it was a conscious decision to do so at a collective level in the ways that everybody is calibrated to do so. And now we find ourselves in this current moment here with a very natural and harmonious change in the physical world, the Two of Keys. We've gone from the raw material to actual creation process here. Now there's a lot going on in this card, right? You see the Ouroboros, you also see it in the connection of the 8 or the infinity symbol. We talked a lot yesterday about the octave and base 8 type of number system, and how 8 is the number of infinity, of course, when we turn it on its side, but also to divine consciousness. In Gnosticism, it is the Christ consciousness. It allows for divine intervention. Well, the 7 is what allows for divine intervention. The 8 is, in fact, the next octave. So it is the beginning and the end in some ways all brought together within us, so and outside of us. So we have 7 internal chakras, or so we are told. More are coming online, but it's this 8th that allows us to connect above and below, which I would argue is really most successfully utilized in the heart chakra, right? When we connect above and below here in the heart chakra, this is where it emanates the strongest, right? Because it's an electrical pump, and that electromagnetic wave that moves in a wave function or has a frequency, just like consciousness, just like sound, just like light. It comes from the heart, and this is where we have some of the most impact, I believe. Other people believe it comes from the pineal, or our knowledge, right? And that is a different set of beliefs right there. So the two of discs in particular is about harmonious change, right? You have the yin and the yang. You have Jupiter in Capricorn. Jupiter in the first moments coming out of its home territory of Sagittarius into Capricorn. So it's still mutable. We are still seeing that there is a change in the system, but it's a harmonious, fluid change. There's a natural balance of gain and loss, of growing and fading, of weakness and strength. So when we are experiencing this dynamic change, and it's very harmonious in nature, it's part of this this deep connection to the core of who we are, that it's timeless and changeless, that is really connected to the center point of the Cancerian archetype, the crossover from decision to consolidation, because it's the consolidation and the tightening and the drawing tighter of that lattice structure of the 4th house in Cancer that allows us to maintain ourselves in this process of the natural balance of gain and loss. And so we're still part of nature, so we have to accept the natural flow of changes. And there's flexibility and enthusiasm that can go along with this card, because it's going from a seed point into the first step of creation. But that does mean leaving behind something, as we are part of the wave function, just like everything else, contraction and release, the top of the wave to the bottom of the wave. It's a natural fluid process that is embedded in nature and embedded in the laws of nature that we're operating under currently. So this is the heart of the matter today. And remember, coming from it is the pleasure of reconciliation and the balance and harmony that we have come to, not from just being, it's easy. It's easy when things feel good to be the witness and to be in harmony and to find the balance. It is mastery when you can bring this into your immediate awareness and practice when things are on the other end of the spectrum here, when it's difficult, when you feel weak, when you feel heavy, when you feel depressed, when you feel hopeless. That is when real mastery steps in. So there's something changing here right at the heart A very distinct, harmonious change, the very first step after the seed point of a new creation. It's actually happening now. So something is in fact changing. What it is will, remains to be seen, I suppose. And it's different for everyone. So the Oracle of Delphi, here is our, speaking of where we are drawing our power from, the Oracle of Delphi. So this is the first card in the Akashic Tarot. This is very much connected, in my opinion, right now, to the fact that the sun is meeting the south node, because the north node would really be much more aligned to what this card really represents. And also the two, right? The Akashic Library. These two together really represent, to me at least, the Rahu, or the North Node, right? Being open to the blessings and what is being offered to us based on a decision to explore and to discover in terms of our own consciousness, right? We're trying to discover and explore ourselves. This is what Gemini can really bring to the table for us. So when the Oracle of Delphi, I mean, we've gone over this card before, but if you're new here, then then what I can tell you here is that here is the Oracle herself, this priestess of Pythia. She is sitting on this three-pronged chair. The fissure in the earth is releasing steam. She's sitting under it. It's most likely that the steam is imbued with natural minerals that will change the consciousness. There are many minerals naturally that will do this. And then the priest over here, or the scribe, that is then interpreting what the oracle is perceiving and transmitting. And then the scribe or the priest is writing it down and interpreting what it is that's coming through. So when this card is reversed, it's pretty obvious that we're denying the inner voice, or there is something that we're sidelining or resisting when it comes to our own inner voice or messages from spirit. And so again, when you listen to the voice within and respond, you become the oracle in your own life. That's what ultimately this represents. So when it is reversed, I mean, this is really signaling to us that when we draw our power from a place that is not in full alignment to our inner voice, I mean, we're going to, we may be struggling with the changes because we are not allowing ourselves to fully engage with our own inner voice about what's happening. And we're going to get to some guidance here to show us how to really make the best of this, because what it seems like is that, yes, there is pleasure, there's the reconciliation emotionally, the balance and harmony that we've come to, and the return to the inner source that is our causal factor, or is preceding this moment, and then coming into something very distinctly material that is changing, right? But when we find ourselves not aligning with the inner voice, when we find that we are sidelining our work, and this is collective, this is not everyone, then we're going to how we interact with this Four of Discs, or power, is going to be very much connected to what is going on here. Maybe this is just a gentle reminder to remember to align ourselves and our own personal power with this role within ourselves, or to be the oracle of our own lives as well. And in a reversal, this could also mean that it's very much related to our own work and our own journey. But I do also feel like that what I'm seeing is that there will be a desire to consolidate and find protection and a fortress with these changes as a result of, it's not only pleasurable, but I feel like that we want to protect what we've come to. We want to protect this sense of balance and harmony, the return to the inner source. But we have to be aware of our own channel, and that awareness comes from not only perception but interpretation. And when you have a bunch of filters that are imposed this, or you are aligning yourself with the past, which the sun meeting K2 today is important to, right, that K2 in the south node is where we're coming from. If we're aligning our expression with where we've been and not seeing it as where we've been, I think this also can this can have an impact on this being reversed some way. There are deep energies that are stirring, and we want to make sure that we are interpreting our perception of them accurately so that we don't find ourselves closing ourselves off. And this is going to be the astrology, I think, will really tie this all together for today, because where our attention is back to the lookout again, right? This is coming up again in terms of the dumpster fire that is our society, that we are really trying to see out over the horizon to our next step. And again, Sagittarius is the big picture, and it is the horizon and the broad horizon that we are looking at. We're not really looking at details necessarily with Sagittarius. And so, again, the sun meeting K2, it's very karmic. The eclipses are very karmic, obviously, but with the sun here, now exactly, it's very karmic about these deep energies stirring underneath, and us much more focused on where are we going? How are we getting out of this? You know, what's my next step? How do I not burn down with this dumpster fire underneath me? And we're going to see that while our perspective is very much focused on the horizon and where we're going, and I'm not suggesting that this is something we shouldn't be engaged in, but with the moon in Cancer right now, we definitely want to take the initiative to actually be closer to the earth, be closer and more observant, to allow ourselves to just be in, I don't want to say the heaviness, but to allow that to, it's like when the barometric pressure drops in the atmosphere around you, you do feel heavy, and it literally is pushing on you. In the magnetosphere and the pressure, it is pushing on us. And maybe there's something there for us rather than continuing to be out here all the time. And maybe these unconscious energies that are stirring as the sun meets K2 are actually really important to just be aware of rather than certainly acting on it, because the, power is important. And this is our solstice point, right? The sun in Capricorn is our solstice point. It's actually the third, actually it's not, because it's the third decan of Capricorn. So you're going to see at the end of the time here, this could be that like into January leading into the sun's movement into Aquarius. This is power, right? Security, structure, fields of growth and stability, success and establishment. This is not to say that we aren't heading for this. And with Venus in Capricorn in part of this mystic rectangle today, in conjunction with Vega, this is a very strong value system that we are engaged with, right? Venus as the goddess of love and the empress, right, is the divine feminine incarnate into the world of value and tradition. So it's very, this Capricorn energy is very much linked to our sense of value, our sense of tradition, our sense of where we've come from in terms of our ancestry, what allows us to feel safe and secure in terms of the material world, who's valuable, right? Our relationships. And there's a sense of responsibility and wisdom, and especially a sense of what it takes in order to keep us all healthy as a society. So, but there does appear here that one of the ways that we may find ourselves addressing this very natural change is to kind of wall ourselves off, right? And to create this pattern of security and a fortress in order to maintain that harmony and balance. And I'm not suggesting necessarily that we should or shouldn't, but what seems to be very strong here is that the fortress and the power and the security is going to come from within us. It's not going to come from outside of us. And again, the astrology is going to really tie this all together in terms of what is being offered as opportunities today. And speaking of opportunities, let's look at our guidance surrounding this moment here, this narrative moment, this snapshot of us energetically. So the One of Scrolls is on track, right? The very first of the mental and the mind and ideas, the One of Scrolls. So this guy's got his ticket, right? He's got his luggage, he's got a ticket. He's got one foot on the staircase up into the train, right? It is time to go, and he's kind of looking over at, us and being like, is this, am I getting on this train or not? Like, I'm ready to go. Are you ready to go too? And the One of Scrolls is about choices and direction. So, what is your choice and direction? Well, with the seagull involved here, it's the time for deep emotional healing. And again, with the oracle being reversed, again, when maybe it's about the deeper work that we are doing with ourselves. Are we on track with our own healing? Are we on track with our own channel of power and personal power, and where we feel like we belong? Where is our stabilizing point? Because the seagull is a bird. And so we have this capacity to transcend, but also at will to dip in to the collective unconscious, our own unconscious realm, right? To go in and do this deep emotional healing. So it's time to clear these scars away, and we've made that decision already, right? Now it's about going through the process and clearing away the scars. You don't want to completely submerge yourself in the experience, and I think that this is going to be much more relevant by the end of today, when the moon in Cancer is in a trine to Neptune. So we're going to see how we can actually perform in our own way to dip into our own emotional scars, our own psychic scars, our own history, and to keep on with our own healing process, because that's ultimately what's going to lead to, again, the shifting. It is shifting, right? There's definitely a change that is happening, because I think people are starting to really realize it now. And even with, things are changing so rapidly, and things that you didn't expect maybe coming out into your awareness from the mainstream. Remember, it's all a show. It's all part of the circus. And so the best way to disengage from all of that is to engage in your own deeper process. And when you are able to really settle yourself in terms of your emotional healing, if you're really committed to this process and willing to go into the depths, even when it's uncomfortable or it's a feeling of heaviness, you are on track. And this is going to have so much more impact than this consistent, thinking that the circus is your real life, because it's just a show, right? It's just a show, and there is an agenda behind that show, at least to entertain and distract us, right? So as Jim Brewer so eloquently put it in the post I put in Telegram yesterday. So now is the time for deep emotional healing. Now the weasel. See, this is where I think that we are looking at the broad horizon. We're letting those unconscious energies that are stirring underneath, they do need an outlet in some ways. And I think that collectively we're still looking for our outlet, our way out, right? With the lookout. And that served its purpose, right? The Q movement served its purpose, and that operation is over, and it has been over because it did what it was supposed to do, right? Which was to be the lookout and to be the eyes of the lookout for all of us to see. And so, but now, and we're still doing that. How are we going to get out of this? Where are we going next? What's the next what's the next location? But right in this moment, it does feel like be silent, pay attention, simply observe with your eyes and ears and physical feelings what is happening all around you. Now, this does relate in some ways to the lookout, because this is what that person in the crow's nest is doing, being silent, paying attention, observing, right? But there's something about getting very low to the ground that the weasel represents, as you can see, to be the silent witness, right? The weasel gets down. Look at the weasel is very close to the ground. This is how they are able to navigate their environment successfully, is by being very in tune with the natural world and getting low to the ground, being observant, being silent and paying attention. And this is where we're going to get the inspiration for where we know we have somewhere to go. Like that is, I'm not saying that we shouldn't embody this or push this is just what is, right? We are still like, yes, this is all burning down underneath us. Where are we going next? Where is the next step? And sometimes that's really, especially when we're kind of caught up in our own healing journey and things are shifting and changing, we can be really inspired, right? The muse, we can be very inspired by of where we're going next by being silent, being the witness, being the observer, instead of continuing to try to act on things. Everybody has their place, and I'm not suggesting either that there are people that shouldn't be acting on things as well. But in terms of a collective energetic read here, our best course of action, it feels like in this terms of guidance and gifts, is to be the silent witness and to really allow ourselves to be inspired. Again, the moon in a trine to Neptune today is going to be a big part of this inspiration and showing us how we can perform within our own capacity that will actually be connected to the whole, but it does require that we individually are performing in a certain way. When I explain the astrology, like I said many times already, it's going to make a lot more sense. And we do want success. We do want establishment, but don't forget that Pluto is in Capricorn, the third decan of Capricorn, which is what the Four of Discs represents, the sun in that third decan of Capricorn. So also too, it might be worth it to kind of go forward a little bit and see when the sun actually meets Pluto in its transit of Capricorn, because that's going to say a lot about timing with it's, there's definitely a lot of power that comes from a Sun Pluto conjunction, but it also can be some ego battle between our expression and something way more powerful. Pluto always has the final word in terms of our material existence, because there's no getting beyond the harmonious change of life and death, right, in material form. The trick is to bring our consciousness to fourth and fifth density so that there is no fear or attachment to the material form as it naturally progresses in order to sustain itself, right? For all of the action and growth, we have to balance it out with inaction and stillness and receptivity. So it's at the heart of things right now, and we have to. There will be a tendency, I feel like, to want to consolidate and circle the wagons even more so, and your version of success is going to. And security is going to have a lot to do with the way that we work with the moon in Cancer today, because that is the natural opposition to Capricorn, which is what this card represents. So are we able to manage the storm coming through the canyon and destroying everything of value to us, right? What is it that actually is protecting us in the face of what otherwise is nothing more than expression of natural harmonious change. And I would say that the healing aspect is a big part of this, and knowing that we're on track. We made the decision to go forward on this journey if we're still here. So now we have to get on the train and realize that this is about our healing as a collective and our healing as individuals. And those things are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they are so interlinked at this point that it is of the highest you know, if you feel like that you're not doing enough, I get this a lot from people. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm doing enough. I feel like that I'm not doing enough. And I get that especially from, you know, certain groups or chat groups or certain smaller like sub communities where there is a lot of action happening and people are like, you know, a little overwhelmed that they don't feel like they can participate in some way. And it's like just being the best version of yourself is just as important. And we can be inspired if we are silent witness right now and not getting caught up in the dumpster fire that we know is burning below us. That's important to consider. So let's see here. We're going to move, speaking of the astrology, we'll move on to that right now. So that concludes the intuitive portion of this reading. So I'm going to minimize myself and we'll pop on over to the astrological reading. So we'll also be minimizing that. This. All right, my friends. Here we go. All right. So like I said, we have our moon in Cancer. Right now, it's going to be coming into an opposition with Pluto, like very late tonight, early tomorrow morning. But as of today, it is going to be in an opposition to Venus. That's really the first major transit of today. Technically, the 23rd is this opposition between the moon and Venus. So these are two very feminine energies, obviously. The moon being the divine, the feminine energy in its essence, and then Venus being the incarnate version of the feminine energy, right? How we experience it in our own material world and our material bodies and value and resources. And the moon being how we feel about these things. So it's the space within us that allows us to receive and to adapt and to feel things in our intuitive and emotional landscape. So to have these two in opposition to each other is really challenging us up at that level, right? It's challenging us at that level of where do I focus, right? Because on the surface and the material aspect with Venus is very much about we have to be responsible for not just ourselves, but for the group and for the cohesion of the group and the security of the group. And we have to keep ourselves healthy. We have to keep ourselves active, right? This degree of Capricorn is very much about the group integration and the consistent maintenance of that what has been crystallized as a result of our ingress into Capricorn, right? So the change at the center of the reading with the Two of Discs is the very beginning of Capricorn, right? Something mutable now coming into something with form. And we do need to actually maintain that, and it takes all of us working on ourselves together in order to do so. The opposition to the moon, which we're going to see is actually part of this mystic rectangle in some ways, is the and we also do see here that the opposition with the sun and Rahu is here too, but these aren't actually the mystic rectangle. You'll see it with Mars involved as well. But the opposition here with our moon in Cancer, very powerful, right? It's powerful enough to just kind of ground us in some ways, like the heaviness of it, you know, the pressure of it. And we talked about that with the octopus yesterday, how the octopus has the capacity to withstand the literal pressure, the actual pressure of deep water. And if your cup or your vessel is very large and deep, then yeah, the more you sink into it, the more pressure you are exposed to. So this is, with the moon though, this is the concern with our ability to integrate our own personality in this vessel. And so again, there is right there the opposition of like feeling very deeply, having to work with stabilizing our sense of form as an individual in opposition. This is how we're feeling on the inside, whereas its opposition to Venus, really tugging on that too, is the responsibility we have to each other and to the structure and stability of our institutions and our culture, and all of the Capricornian aspects, the literal fractal geometry of the universe. There is a need to stay in shape, and there's a need to exercise and to stay and maintain it, right? And so I think in some ways that this is really providing a lot of confusion for all of us in terms of, well, where do I put my attention? Well, the best thing to do with an opposition is find the fulcrum or the balance point, right? How do you balance these two out? Well, realize that when you focus on stabilizing your sense of individual form as a result of integrating your personality into that that familial structure, studying that and having, and it's our concern for that really leads us to figuring this out. When we do that, it actually will eventually feed into our ability and our sense of responsibility to the larger whole. It's just that these, Venus is much more connected to our actual physical world, whereas the moon is, it's intangible, right? Especially in Cancer, these are feelings, deep intuitive feelings. Again, this is where that Oracle of Delphi being reversed is just like, it's really drawing us down in terms of our psychic work and our inner perspective and our ability to intuit what is happening at that level. So these two are going to really pulling on each other. What we do have, though, is right after that, this was this morning, so in your dream state, we're really feeling it. But from here, we do see that the moon then comes into a trine with Mars. So this is where the mystic rectangle starts to come into effect as well. Because when you have a mystic rectangle, and we'll look at it on the other chart actually. Let me show you here. There we go. So you can see it a lot clearer on this chart because here is the trine to the moon in Cancer, but then you see there's a sextile to Venus. Venus is in a wide trine still to Uranus, and Uranus is in that sextile to the moon still. So that's the rectangle, and then the mystic rectangle part is the fact that there are two oppositions that meet in the middle. So you have these two opposing forces, and then you have all the opportunity of balance and reconciliation surrounding it that are opportunities for us. So there's the first opposition with Venus and the moon, and then you see that there's a trine to Mars in Scorpio. Mars is now in the second half of Scorpio. So it's coming from the communion to the faith part of things, and very much acting on very impulsively and very strongly and very forcefully in a lot of ways. Strangely enough, into the idea that it all comes from within. See, this is again where we're bringing this theme back up multiple times in this reading, that it's the total reliance upon God within, the dictates of infinite source within us, right? It's the potency of the inward way. And so Mars is almost pushing us, like pushing. So again, there's that like heaviness of just like, no, it's I'm going to push down so that you understand that the real potency is about what we are aligning with inside, right? The internalized power that we can create within ourselves by aligning with this internalized experience of source or God, or however you understand it for yourself. So Mars is like really pushing, but what it's doing in its trine to the moon in this moment is that we find ourselves like it's pushing, but then we find ourselves within feeling the urge to actualize ourselves because of that. And so there's an unfoldment of all kinds of potentials that come from this original seed point. And it's like a germination of a seed. And so even though Mars seems to be pushing, and it is pushing, and it is very much pushing into a space of within, it's all within. The trine to the moon in this moment is a very connected, harmonious baseline that allows for a germination of our own character and our own personality to start to unfold, right? That is what germination is. It's like the seed popped open and that sprout is starting to unfold. Or if you've ever looked at a fern, a brand new fern that is growing, its original like stalk or whatever is all folded into this spiral shape. And so again, the pressure seems to be coming from a lot of different areas, and with Mars involved in Scorpio, is really strong. It's like, nope, this is the inner way. This is the potency is inside, and when we do that, then we feel within us all of the potential, all of the germination that can happen as a result of that. So then we move to, and then, like I said, this is the Uranus is involved as well, because we've already had the trine with Venus and Uranus. We talked about that because that was a big part of the eclipse, right? The fire as a representation of that which is beyond the life and death cycle, and it allows us to access it in a meditative space, or access it in our own access it through, especially with Venus, it's coming through our own relationships. It's coming through our own value and what we perceive to be valuable as well. And it's that, the fire is what allows for the phoenix to rise. And we talked about that with the eclipse. And so that's still part of this mystic rectangle. The fact that these two are in a sextile to each other as well. So we know that in, the material unfoldment, right? The unfolding of the geometric fractal of our reality, with Mars really ambitiously and strongly and forcefully going into the depths of what holds it all together to begin with, is really important. And then it is allowing us in some ways to find that midpoint between our own our own concern of how do we do this? How do we integrate our own healing process into what is very strongly pointing us towards a responsibility for all of us to be doing this work? And I think that, again, it's just about pushing us down into ourselves, basically. And this is how the astrology is really supporting it today. And then the moon comes into this, later today is going to come into a trine with Neptune in Pisces, still retrograde for another week. It's still retrograde for another week, and this is our performance point. When we can perform, proving our virtuosity, and there's an emotional reward here that comes out of it, and especially in relation to our ability to truly surrender and trust the full experience of being in this life, and especially in terms of where we're headed, and that within us is everything that we need in order to really acknowledge and have a sense of hope of what's coming. With Neptune retrograde, it's still something that we're experiencing within, that we're internalizing it, that maybe they're an internalized experiences that are clouding our judgment, and going back into our own collective unconscious, right? In terms of like our own karmic history, our own actual history, past lives, multidimensional experiences, because Pisces is everything and nothing, right? It's the Akash. And so the morphogenetic field. So that also does factor in experiences that have to do with ancestral karma keeping its claws within us and our family members, right? That they've been involved with us for so long that trying to root them out is very difficult. And this is really challenging us to stay aligned energetically with the experience of the hope of what's coming as a result of everything we're going through. If you've ever watched Twin Peaks, oh my gosh, I can't recommend it enough. And it takes a certain type of person to really get through it and see all of the layers. But that theme is part of it as well. If you are familiar with Twin Peaks or you're interested in really going down a rabbit hole, the idea that there is family karma and these entities that have made their home within a family lineage or a genetic structure that continue to make themselves known. So we've been really challenged with Neptune just in general, because it can be very confusing, especially within ourselves. And we're really being brought to task in terms of trusting what is coming and surrendering to the hope of the future without anything else to go on other than our own internalized experience of what is and what could be. It's going to get a lot more confusing when Neptune stations direct, that's for sure, but also much more externally powerful. So this trine with the moon this afternoon, noon-ish on the West Coast, later in the day, as if we go across the pond, then into Europe and beyond, is showing us that when we align with some sort of performance, right? And it's a performance that is not about us. That would be more of a Gemini thing. It's our expression of our emotional connection to where we belong. And there's something that we get from that. There's an emotional reward. It's like an opera singer, right? The opera singer is representing the culture that is, the basis for the opera, for instance. And so the singer, in their mastery of their own voice, their own power, expresses it, and there is a feedback loop here. So there's something to be said for this as well, and it's very again, the feelings and the experience of things is very strong. And I think the inspiration or the muse that is in the reading is a big part of this Neptune in Pisces, the muse that will influence each of our own individual expression of what we are feeling very, very deeply within ourselves. And it's going to, again, coming from being still, being observant, being the silent observer, being the witness of our own experience, and just being willing to feel what is there, even if it's heavy, even if it's seems like it's holding us down. Because Mercury, well, that too, we'll talk about that. Because Mars is a big part of this. Mars is very forcefully inward to be like, this is the way. So it's from there that we got to, like I said, that the unfoldment of all of our potential as an individual being and as a character is going to come from that. So if you're feeling like suppressed or it's heavy, there's a really good reason for that. So Mercury too is, like I said, passed over the degree of the sun at the full moon lunar eclipse, is now bringing our mental awareness and our conceptualization and the realm of the mind in general to love as the principle of redemption. We realize that it is in fact love and the communion that was created by communion, right? I mean, love, fifth house in Leo, feels like love, but it's not. It's just lust, right? It's passion. It is, and that's important. That is the driving force behind all of our collective engagements and relationships, is each of us having that passion move through us. But it's through the Scorpio realm that we really discover love. And love is the principle of redemption, right? Not justice or revenge or even a sense of responsibility. It really is love. And so we're coming to like a very clear awareness in this moment with Mercury here as well that I think is very powerful and something to consider as Mercury is also getting close to moving into Sagittarius by tomorrow, meeting the sun within the next week or so, and then we'll also cross over the South Node. So we're getting a lot of opportunities to see where we've been and how the unconscious energies stirring under the surface have influenced our trajectory in the past and how powerful they've been. So, but remember where we're headed, about Gemini, which is about learning who we are, exploring our own consciousness, and being willing to engage in the full spectrum of the dialectic. And right now, it's still very much about receiving the blessings, receiving and being open to what we initiate with our own discovery. And so when the North Node especially, when Rahu comes over the point of Alcyon, which will be sooner than later, as you can see, that's going to be our view of very into the full experience of our own psyche and the collective psyche as well. It's really going to challenge us, I think. I think it's really going to challenge us collectively, as there is going to be a stronger, well, we'll see, because a lot of stuff will have moved past this area by that time, but Mars will still be pretty close, I think, to the South Node, and Mars being a planet that represents our impulsivity and our action and our bravery and courage to act on our own interests, then and the seed point, right, of everything that we could become, we have to act on it. Coming into a fire sign, it's going to be also very powerful, but it's not nearly as powerful as it is in Scorpio right now. There'll be kind of this release in some ways when Mars moves out of Scorpio. It just won't be nearly as intense in terms of us feeling like we have to act on something. So ultimately, if you're I've said it many times already, if you're feeling heavy, if you're feeling pushed down, if you're feeling like overwhelmed, this is the perfect opportunity to just let it push you, not you, into depression. We already saw that. We've moved past that now. Letting it stabilize you, get to the core of who you are. Maybe it's time to go deeper than you've ever been in order to actually be able to manage the sun meeting the South Node, right? To be aware of the unconscious energies that are stirring under the surface, and to even express ourselves for a moment through them, right? But also realizing it's not where we're going. That silent witness, to be the observer, to explore our own consciousness is really the direction we are headed, which is very difficult when you have all of this energy that is expression and thinking and even action, all in areas that have to do with the collective cohesion. So we're doing the best that we can, and I think we're doing a great job, to be honest. And to just be aware, just watch what's happening out there. You can watch how quickly things are changing to mitigate what is naturally unfolding, which is the awakening process. Like, there's nothing that's going to stop it. So you can kind of sit back and watch the circus and be like, whoa, look at all of that just happened. And there's plenty of instances that I don't need to tell you what they are. You can go find them on your own. They will be on social media, serving their role to distract us and divide us even further. So oh my, oh my, oh my. So, my friends, I'm going to leave it at that for today's transmission. Thank you so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. I have such a hard time staring at the camera. If your face was right here and I was looking you in the eyes, it'd be a different story. It would be so much easier. Staring into this computer webcam is very artificial, and I have a hard time doing it. So that's why I'm all over the place. So if you're interested in a reading, I'm definitely getting some interest in the eclipse reading. That's $99, and you get a 90-minute recording of your chart, your natal chart and your progress chart, and what to expect for the eclipse season. So that's being offered right now. So you can email me. You can also, if you go to catalystenergies.net, that's in the description box below, you can sign up on my mailing list, which is where I'm, releasing a lot of these types of things first, is through the email list. So that's a great way to get on there. There's a splash page that just comes up, and you can do that. Or if you're interested in any other type of reading or energy work, you can go to catalystenergies.net, and you can click on the services tab and check out what is available there. I just recently added a new service. It's just a one-on-one consultation. It's under packages, where we do a one-on-one hour on Zoom, and we go into something very deeply at your discretion and your choosing. And I either offer a micro reading, like with the cards, or we look at your chart and bring something very specific into the conversation from your natal or progress chart, or a Reiki healing attunement, which really is something that amplifies and supports any type of healing process energetically that you would be going through anyway. It just kind of, it's like a stamp. It's like an energetic stamp on that, and just amplifies it and attracts things even more to you that are for that process. So that's on the website as well, if you're interested in some one-on-one time, because sometimes you just need to talk to somebody and really get deeply into a specific issue. So that's an option as well. Of course, you can follow us on Telegram and Facebook. That's in the description box below as well. Thank you for being here. If you would, if you want to support this work financially, you can do so through Subscribestar. That link is in the description box below as well. And soon there will be a content exclusive to those subscribers. So for $3 a month, you get all of this. Plus, you'll be getting exclusive content that has to do with weekly whole sign astrology for per sign, and special reports and things like that. So, guys, have a great day. Take very good care of yourself. Honor yourself and where you are, and if that means just staying put and being still and silent and letting the pressure just do the work, then that's what you need to do, and to be easy on yourself in that process. So, and of course, stay hydrated, stay nourished, stay restful if you need it, and we will be together tomorrow. Take care of yourself, and God bless you, and we'll have we'll be together tomorrow for the Daily Medicine transmission. Have a great day.